Well, hello and welcome back to the garden. In case you're new here, my name is Brandon and I'm a gardener that grows things in Zone 9B, Southeast Texas, just southeast of Houston to be exact. And one of the things that I have to do in the garden is to tell plants, don't go that way, don't do that. And as I was recently clearing this bed out for the year, I came across some of my leucophyllums that I realized need a little bit of attention. And so I wanted to show you guys how I tell my plants what to do and talk a little bit about why I do it and why maybe you should do this. It's a little bit of a details thing, but I think that it is worth doing and it's something that not enough people are doing. So let's have a look real quick at this specimen here. Leucophyllum frutescens, by the way, is known typically as Texas sage, although I don't really like that name because it is not a sage or salvia, and I love my salvias. So when you call something a sage or salvia that isn't a salvia, I'm a little bit meh. But yeah, as I was saying, let's take a look at this one. There are three here, by the way, in this bed. One, two, and then on the far corner there's a third one. But let's see what this one is doing and why I decided I need to come give this one some attention and show you guys what needs to be done on it. So as I said, when I was down here pulling weeds and stuff and clearing the area, because this area was very overgrown this year, that's a part of my method, so it's just what happens here. I realized that there was a big old problem right here particularly. It looks like I still have some cleaning up to do here. Right here in this little cross section. Let me bring you a little closer so you can see that. So if we can see past this little branch here, and this is one of the ones that I'm probably going to sacrifice. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You can see that there's a nice little cross section here that isn't the best. So you don't want plants that are rubbing up against each other like this. It's not going to be good for the long-term health of the plant. So what I do, partly for the health of the plant, but partly for aesthetics, is I come in and I actually pull these branches apart because I don't want to just prune off things if I can save them, because let me talk a little bit about why and step back and talk about this. Now, everybody's going to have their own goals in regards to why they garden and what they're trying to achieve. And in my garden, one of the biggest things is privacy. You may not be able to tell this right now from your perspective, but I live in a very, very heavily populated area. I've got major roads right along my house. And so one of my biggest goals was to provide privacy screening. And I think you can see this if I step this way. Between the layers of the leucophyllum up front and this one here, and even if I go further back, you start to not be able to see me anymore. And that has been the goal really with most of my gardening with the larger plants, is that I'm really trying to block out the view and provide privacy here, but also I'm trying to provide the overhead structure so that I can feel like I'm in a forest, because that's my happy place, is feeling like I'm around these big trees. I can hide under them like a little bird hiding from the hawks. That is what makes me feel the most comfortable, but it also achieves multiple purposes, like providing habitat for the birds, the actual birds that have to worry about the hawks, and then for the butterflies and all the other things. So in that goal, I'm trying to get my plants to grow as fast, as tall, and most of them as wide as possible. And some I'm trying to leave space at the bottom for growing other plants, flowering things and such. And so that's why I do a lot of this stuff that I'm going to show you, which is taking a plant like this, and instead of having these 3, 4, 5 main trunks go straight up like they are, you can actually pull them down to the side like this, secure them in place for a little while, and eventually they're going to stay like this. And so I'm going to show you on that guy there how I do this, how you can do this, and hopefully you can see the benefit and decide for yourself, is this something that you want to do? Because it's something that you can do if you want to do it. All right, so I think that you're probably in the best perspective to see all of this. So normally I would have gloves on. I've decided to raw dog it today. Now, I'm going to prune off a few things first that I really don't need. Like I said, I've got this branch here that's just weak and small, and I really don't need this because I like to grow other things underneath my shrubby plants and trees, such as the aloe vera here, and then I've got a lantana here, although I'm going to remove that. That's a topic for another video, but I am going to go ahead and get close to the trunk, and I'm going to remove this, which maybe I can propagate this. I'm probably going to try that because I do really love this particular variety here. I think this is San Antonio rose, but there are over a dozen cultivars of Leucophyllum. So, sorry about the motorcycle in the background. Y'all probably can't hear it that well. I found that out in the last video that honestly the background noise doesn't get picked up by this camera, this microphone too easily. Now there is a little bit of a thicker branch in here that needs to go, and I'm afraid to do it with these pruners, but I'm going to go ahead and try. I like my electric pruners for this. I think I can do it. I think I'm damaging the trunk a little bit above, but it's all right. Okay, so now that I've got these guys out of the way, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do about this. So first off, I think I'm just going to do a physical manipulation here. So I could prune off this branch that's in the way, but I think I'm going to try to leave it. I do tend to remove all branches up to a certain point, again, so that I can let light down into the bottom here. But I think I can leave this because there's a thing about Leucophyllum frutescens. Its branches are very flexible. I can bend this all the way down here and around, and they don't really break. And even these dead branches, they don't break. This is a dead branch. I was trying to like rub my hand down the trunk to remove the old stuff. They don't break. Like most branches on other shrubs and plants are brittle, but if you want to remove like all of this stuff here, you've actually got to come in here and you have to cut them. They don't just prune off naturally like a lot of other stuff does. So that was something that I had to learn about these, because I didn't start growing these until last year, actually. I wasn't very interested in them because they're grown everywhere here. But I started to realize that if you really focus in on them and, you know, like I said, focus in on the trunk shaping and making sure that you prune all the bottom stuff and get all the smaller stuff off, these can be really valuable bushes, and they eventually get pretty large. They can almost be small trees. So as I was saying, sorry, I know I'm a little bit long-winded. I'm going to just pull this branch out of the way, and then I'm going to pull this in front where it should be. And my next step here is going to be to actually pull these apart so that they're not rubbing right up against each other like this. And so I could make the decision to sacrifice one of these, and it would be this one here that I would sacrifice because the other two trunks are probably sufficient for what I need. And when I pull this, there's a good chance that this is going to come out a little bit too far in the walkway for me, but for now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make peace with it, and I'm going to just move all three branches apart and kind of deal with if I want to remove something larger a little bit later. So next is, how do I do that? So I'm pretty sure you guys can see here in front of me, I've got a selection of tools. You're going to need some kind of stakes because we're going to use some rope to actually pull these things down. And so I've got a few sections of rope here. I've got a few different types of stakes. There are all kinds of stakes that you can use. I will insert a small clip of video. Future Brandon, remember, put video in here. I'm going to insert a small clip of video of some of the other anchors that I use, but these should be sufficient for what I'm doing here. So let's just get into the fine details of it. So if I know what general direction I'm going to have to move the branch in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an anchor, I'm going to put it in that direction where I need to move it. This one has to move either this way, or maybe I can get it to go a little bit this way. So, I mean, that's okay to keep it out of the walkway. So I'm actually going to move a little bit more like right here. And then I'm going to get this as far down into the ground as I can get it. All right, now for the next part, we get to learn something fancy. We're going to learn a little bit about knots. not too much, nothing crazy. For one, the knot that you tie to the little anchor here is not that important. So we're just going to tie something that looks like it's going to stay secure. I'm sure everyone can manage that. Just tie a little knot that just looks like it's going to stay put. All right, so that's the first thing we need, but the knot that I used up here is going to be a little bit more special. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit to show this part to you. Okay, so I think I've zoomed in enough. I know it's not too much, but like I said, I put the anchor in the direction that I want this branch to move, and so there's a mistake that I've made many times here, and I still make this today. And that is that I tie the wrong knots and I tie them too close to the branch, and then here's some footage of consequences of that. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to tie this all the way around the branch once you have it, in the position that you want it. Also, you really got to pay attention to where you put the anchor point on the branch, because if I put it up here, this is going to go way down here. If I put it here, it's going to move the whole branch over. It is going to be a little bit more stress though on the point down here, so I've got to watch for that. So I'm going to put it somewhere in this area because I need it to move away from that branch that it's rubbing against on the back. And you can do more than one anchor point, but we're going to just stick to one here. So what I do is I hold this and I watch for, how far away everything's moving. Am I happy with where it's moving? And then I might take the anchor point and move it around a little bit and see maybe if it's better if I put it in a different spot. And I don't use just the rope. I try to have my hand on it and really does it feel like I'm pulling it to a point where it might break the branch, because you want to avoid that, of course. So once I feel like I've got it to a pretty good point here, where I want it to be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie what's called a taut line hitch. So this is a very easy knot. I'm going to make it as simple as I can. So you've got the two ropes parallel. The loose end here we're going to put over, and then we're going to make two loops. So that's one loop around, and then we're also going to do a second one. So just go back through again the same way, and now we have two loops there. Now there's two things you can do here, but they're not very important. You can either go under and put it back through, you can go this way and back through. It really doesn't matter. I've done it both ways and it works the same way. But so we're going to go one of those two directions. So down one of those two directions, either over or under, and then we're going to bring the loop through, the end through, and we're going to just pull that tight. So what this does is it makes a knot that does something kind of surprising. You really wouldn't think that, that would hold that tight. Maybe it would slip, but it doesn't, because of the way this knot is designed. This ain't my design, by the way. This is just one of those knots that you learn like in Boy Scouts. Because of the way this knot is designed, it pulls and puts tension on the main line here and keeps it from sliding unless you want it to. Because if you remove tension, you can slide this knot around. So I can make it, let the branch go back that way, or I can pull it back this way. And whenever you're going to slide the tension this way, you have to actually have this in loose. So see, I've got this loose, and it's of course not going to cooperate. Oh, because I'm trying to do this the wrong way. All right, so sorry, you have slack here is what you need, slack on this side. Just pull it down to where you need it. So I can pull the branch, I can move the knot around, pull it tight on this line, and then slide this knot down to where it needs to be. And when I let go, you may have been able to see that tighten up there. It makes it to where it's not going to slide back and forth. And up here, I hope y'all can see this. You see that there's only a loop going around the trunk or the branch. It's not tightened around like this. Again, I showed earlier what happens whenever you have them tighten around. So this is an adjustable knot that makes it to where, and see, you can also pull on this end to slide it back, but I was just trying to tighten that a little bit. I didn't want to do that. It's an adjustable knot that helps you to do this thing here and adjust the branches. So let's look at this from another angle now. Now I know there's a little bit of stuff in the way with this branch, so just pull this away. You can see now that where I did have those two branches before rubbing against each other, now there's a very adequate space here. And as this branch grows here, if we pull back a little bit and look up, as this one grows, now that it has all of the light hitting it, the sun hitting it from here, these branches here will expand and try to fill in. Now, I actually have an example of that right next to y'all. So we'll just look at the sister plant here and whoop, just get adjusted. All right, so you can see right here on my left, your right, I did this same thing here. Now, I didn't do it as intricately, so this looks a little messy, but these were nice and tight, and I had pulled these branches away from each other from being almost, parallel, going up and down. And now these strings are actually loose because these have solidified in place. And also, you can see that I've got branches now growing straight up because everything on plants is usually going to try to grow straight up towards the light. So this is one that's a little bit further along. I'm liking how this is going. I might do a little bit of cleanup today on this, but I will probably do that off camera. But there you go, a little bit of a window into what's eventually going to happen with this one. Now, if I did not like how far into the walkway this was going, and I think I'm okay with it, honestly, looking at it here, but if I didn't, there are a few things that you could do. So number one, you could grab onto an anchor point a little bit higher up here and move this back up this way. If I really wanted to get crazy about it, I could pull these down this way. And you can put anchor points directly in the ground like I did here, or you can use something like a tall stake like this. There are a few different ways. So I'm probably not going to go too hard on this today. You can also, you can also anchor the plant to itself to a degree. What will happen is you may have, so I can pull these together and it'll pull this way a little bit and this way a little bit. You can't really tell until you have something holding it together and it's letting go, or you let go of it, because I'm an anchor point here, standing here. But there are all kinds of things you can do here to prepare these trunks to look a lot nicer in the future and to be healthier because they aren't brushing against each other. I think, and I'm still pretty new to doing this because I've been on this property for 4 years, and although I'm very intense, I'm out here all the time, I don't take breaks really from gardening. I'm still learning, how plants react over time to things. I've learned that a lot of times these plants try to fight you, and you let go of an anchor and the tree pops back up, or branch pops back up to where it was originally if you don't leave it long enough. That happened with the weeping willow in the back, by the way. I'm hoping that I can remember to put a little bit of footage in here to show y'all of that. Come on, future Brandon, remember, put weeping willow footage in here. So I think that's probably all that I really need to show with this plant. You just repeat this process wherever it's needed, and like I said, use that knot that I showed you, and you can put anchors all around the bush. I'm probably going to stop here, honestly. I don't think I need to move it too much more than this. But yeah, you can do two kinds of moving. You can either prune the plant to get it to end up going where you want, or you can just take these trunks and move them in a direction without pruning them off, which I think is more beneficial because you're saving the energy of the plant and all the leaves and everything that's going on here. You're not just lopping off its arms, and it still gets to keep those, but you can move it into whatever shape that you need it. And it's kind of like bonsai, but on a larger scale. The plant is actually in the ground, and it's not being purposefully stunted and stressed constantly, which is what bonsai is. So I think that's going to conclude this video. I just wanted to show y'all like a little bit of the work I'm doing on these three here in particular, and I'll update you in the future on how this goes. You could see a little bit on that one, but it will be interesting to see how this one turns out. I might play around with it a little bit more, just to turn this way, that way. Probably turn these into a weeping version if you want. That'd be faked, and you'd have to train every branch like this, but I think it could be done. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this here, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.